And turning to entertainment this morning, reptile royalty follows Jay Brewer and his team on their never-ending adventure of running the world-renowned reptile zoo in Fountain Valley, California. The show follows Jay and his 3 daughters as they care for over 600 of the world's most rare and exotic reptiles on Earth. Take a look.
Can you call that phone again? I'm gonna have to get down here. I think I got it.
Hey, he got it!
I call this living the dream.
That is quite the dream. Joining us now is the renowned reptile social media maven and star of reptile royalty, Jay Brewer. We are also in for a real treat because he's brought some of his amazing reptile friends today. Good morning, Jay.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm a little outside my comfort zone, but I'm hoping you can help me through this morning. So the show, Reptile Royalty, did this all come from social media?
Basically, I've always been into reptiles, and that created the social media, created the zoo, created my career, basically. So I've always loved animals, and why not work with something you love? Yeah,
and reptiles are your passion. I love animals too, and I want to figure out how I can love reptiles more. And I heard that you have a very rare reptile to show us today, an albino alligator.
Yep, albino American alligator.
Okay. And do you name? Oh boy. Oh yeah. Hello. We kind of matched today, so I hope you're sweet. Okay. So tell us a little bit about your albino alligator, American alligator.
So this is Coconut, and she's basically American albino alligator. Now, albino alligators are pretty rare. She's the second one in California, and one of maybe 250 in the world. And she's absolutely gorgeous. She's very popular online,
I'm sure,
and of course on Reptile Royalty. She's actually about 5 years old.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And is she heavy?
She's getting there. So, and that being said, she can get up to about, because it's a girl, she can get about 350 pounds.
Wow. And how long will it take her to get that big?
It depends how her diet is. So my daughter Juliet has taken very good care of her.
Okay.
So she's grown a lot in the last 2.5 years.
Okay.
And
she's eating well, so to speak.
Eating very well. And
she's looking at me. I'm hoping she doesn't think I'm lunch.
No, she likes your coat.
Okay. All right. Well, from Coconut, I know that you also have an extraordinary lizard to show us today.
We do. We got a frilled dragon.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Oh wow. So I have to say, this dragon reminds me of Jurassic Park in the car, the one that ate Newman from Seinfeld.
And the reason why is it's got this, so I'm sure that this has inspired that dragon because, well, come on, you're going to show us? Come on.
Do we have a name for this dragon?
Being a handful, huh?
Yeah,
like all animals can be. So it's got this frill right here that sticks out, but it doesn't spit venom.
Now, are they normally venomous, these types of lizards?
No, they aren't. They are not venomous ever. And there's really only a couple venomous lizards in the world.
Okay.
Beaded lizards and Gila monsters. And now they're learning the Komodo dragon that they said had the giant Komodo dragon is actually a venomous lizard.
Okay. How old is this lizard?
This one here is about 7 years old.
Okay.
And they come from New Guinea, Australia.
Yeah.
And they can run really quick on their hind legs. And they're pretty amazing.
Good to know.
And of course, they stick that frill out only when they're scared.
Okay.
And so
I guess they're doing okay then. Not so scared.
Apparently, she likes you.
Okay.
He likes you.
Okay, great. We can, have some fun then. So I have heard that you actually have brought something that's not a reptile. So I may be convinced that you're just trying to terrify me. Halloween has come early. I hear you have a tarantula.
I do.
Okay.
And I brought it especially for you.
Oh my goodness. Okay, creepy crawly.
Okay. We have a slogan: if it hops, crawls, or gives your mom the chills, we probably have it at the reptile zoo.
Why do you think spiders make all of us cringe so much? Because I hear tarantulas, they're supposed to be kind of nice.
Well, there's all kinds. Some are very grumpy, some are very mellow. This is called the Chilean rose tarantula. It comes from Chile, and you can see the rose color. And they're by nature super docile. Okay. Very docile.
And so, I mean, she's just kind of, oh, I don't know.
You could do it. You could do it. I'm thinking, have it walk across your hand.
No. This is good. Oh my God, you guys, I'm touching it.
You are. It's touching you.
Wow.
It likes your fingernails.
Okay. All right.
You gonna step past your fear?
That was a
You can do it. You can do it.
Oh.
You can do it. 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 You're doing it.
Oh my God, you guys.
You're doing it.
I can't. Okay.
You're doing it.
Wow.
Look at that.
This is big.
Where's your restroom?
Yeah. Okay, here we have one more.
Okay.
I'm a little outside my comfort zone. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm actually terrified. I'm gonna step a little further away.
Juliette's got, this is my love.
How? Okay, my love. Why do you, it's more my fear, but why do you call her my love?
Okay, so because she's the sweetest snake on the planet Earth and probably the most popular one.
She's huge.
She's literally on social media. She's gotten 150 million views so many times because can you see the rainbow in her?
I can, and I do like that, but she is enormous.
She's so sweet.
I've seen Anaconda.
Have you ever touched a snake before?
I have, and I think I'm good.
Oh.
We did the tarantula.
Have you ever touched a beautiful one like this? You can do it.
Okay, I'm doing it, you guys.
You're doing it.
Thank you
You're
so
living the
much,
dream.
Jay.
You're doing what you never thought you'd do.
Star Jay Brewer. Thank you, everyone. You can watch it. You got to stream Reptile Royalty only on Roku.
And it's free.
Well, good morning and happy Wednesday. We have made it to the middle of the week, and welcome to your morning on Spectrum News 1. I'm Sarah Pilla in for Giselle Fernandez, and we have so much to get to this hour. Let's go to what we're tracking so far. The latest developments in former President Donald Trump's indictment for his alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 election. We'll explain the charges and what comes next. Plus, the Writers Guild of America and the major studios have agreed to meet for the first time since the Hollywood writers' strike began 3 months ago. Parker Collins is standing by with more. Could a deal be in sight? And with wildfires changing the landscape of California due to the extreme heat, we'll take you to a local farm to show you what they're doing to prepare for an evacuation. But first, let's check in with Autumn Robertson and the latest on our weather and a look from the Port of LA. Good morning, Autumn.
Yeah, the Port of LA looking absolutely lovely on this Wednesday. We're seeing that sunshine out there in some parts of our coast already. The good news, if you are in any of those areas that saw any of the thunderstorms, a little bit of those showers yesterday and the day before, that monsoonal moisture is now drifting off to the east, and we're actually going to dry out pretty nicely as we head into the next couple of days. The air above us has been pretty saturated, so as that air dries out, the humidity is going to go down. So it's going to feel a little more like your typical August in Southern California as we make our way into the rest of the work week. And our temperatures will also be near the average before we heat back up as we head into the weekend. Sarah.
Thank you, Autumn. And we begin our news this hour with the former president, Donald Trump. He'll be in D.C. court in a little over 24 hours after being indicted by a grand jury looking into alleged interference in the 2020 presidential election. This is the third time Trump has been indicted in recent months. And Washington correspondent Cassie Simeon is leading us off with more. Hi, Cassie. All right, Cassie, thank you. We will be following those developments. And also developing this morning, back at the table, the Writers Guild and studio heads have agreed to pick up talks again. A sign of hope after 3 long months on the picket lines. Parker Collins is tracking the latest for us. I hope this is a good sign. I mean, 3 months is a long time on those picket lines.
It's certainly an exciting moment because it just has been so long since we've seen any kind of sign or symbol of progress, right?
Yeah.
Well, the Writers Guild of America and the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers are planning to meet this Friday and get back to negotiating. The AMPTP, of course, represents the major studios, and this appears to be the first effort in a long while to really put an end to this standoff. Roughly 10,000 workers walked off the job May 2nd, and it's nearing 100 days of these picket lines. And as we all know, last month, SAG-AFTRA also went on strike and joined them. While hopeful, a breakthrough will take some time. There's still a long ways to go for a compromise on some of those key sticking points, like the writers' demands to secure a larger share of streaming revenue, as well as greater protections against AI, artificial intelligence technology. And with each day, there are new financial hardships for those out there striking. However, a little bit more good news, the Entertainment Community Fund has gotten some big donations lately, like 6 and 7 figures big. This money provides financial assistance for industry workers during the SAG-AFTRA and WGA strikes. The fund has raised more than $6.3 million since May 1st from more than 7,500 donors. And this is from some big names, including Seth MacFarlane, Stacey Abrams, Rachel Bloom, Michelle Pfeiffer, and Shonda Rhimes. So when we think of Hollywood, we think a lot of those A-listers, but these strikes are about a lot more people.
Totally. We know how expensive it is to live here in Los Angeles. Really hard to be out of work in your career for 3 months and more.
For an undetermined amount of time,
That's
right? We just don't know when this will end. They have to have this money on hand. And so to see people really give, I think that's heartening a little bit.
A little bit. What about SAG-AFTRA? Will they be included?
And that's a big deal, right? Because SAG-AFTRA is a bigger union than the WGA, and they've gone on strike already. So we aren't hearing about any renewed talks on their behalf. This is just about WGA at this moment. But a lot of those talking points, a lot of those sticking points are similar between the unions.
Yeah, well, hopefully with the two sides coming together here, we'll hopefully get SAG-AFTRA to the table as well. Thank you, Parker. And we have a lot more coming up later this hour. Take a look.
Retirement, health benefits, continued education funding, and more. I'm Jo Kwan. That's what's included in a historic contract that was just voted on and ratified by more than 40,000 childcare providers in California.
Fire and Heat. That is the name of a new campaign that the Gentle Barn is holding in order to prepare their space for fire season. I'm Natalie Basha. Coming up, I have that story for you.
I'm meteorologist Adam Robertson. Our temperatures are holding steady as we head into the rest of the work week, but we have some changes this weekend. I'll detail what's ahead coming up.
Now turning to our retired servicemen and women. We heard the discouraging news earlier this summer that homelessness is up 10% in LA County. And one group that continues to be heavily impacted is veterans. But our Chase Beach got to meet one Navy vet who has now found his way home, and she joins us now in studio. Good morning, Chase.
Good morning, Sarah. That's Sarah.
Yeah, so we know the barriers with AMI, but what about, were there any other barriers that Dante mentioned with actually getting connected with the apartment? What's that process like?
Yes, so like many of us, in all aspects of our life, Dante said a big issue here was paperwork. He would fill out applications for housing, things would go missing, he would submit paperwork, he would go to the actual housing site and it would not be there, the paperwork would go missing. And this is actually an issue across the board. We've heard this from LAHSA, from the LA Homelessness Services Authority, that paperwork, people not having their paperwork ready to go, has been a huge issue and a barrier to people getting homeless people getting into housing across the county, across the city. And it's something that LAHSA leaders and the mayor have said they're working to expedite to help get people off the streets, like Dante, but like the thousands and thousands of homeless people we know are all over the county of LA.
Right, just getting that process streamlined so we can get people housed quickly and not have it such an issue that paperwork becomes a barrier.
Exactly.
All right, Chase, thank you so much for bringing this important story to us. And we have lots more to come this morning. Top headlines, weather and traffic. In your sports this morning, LeBron James says his 18-year-old son, Bronny, is doing much better after his sudden trip to the ICU. And it's been about a week since Bronny James suffered a cardiac arrest while practicing at USC. Now, this combined with last year's cardiac incident involving Buffalo Bills defensive back Damar Hamlin. This shows the importance of certified medical teams. Here's Tim Parker. And now, developing news, Mayor Karen Bass's campaign promises to grow the LAPD is gaining steam. And city negotiators just struck a deal with the police union to give pay rises. Kate Cagle is following the deal and joins us with what we know so far. What is the latest on this?
Well, exactly. Hiring and retention, it has been a major part of Bass's campaign.
Right, so you see Mejia on his side saying, you know, concerns with a police budget being increased, but at the same time, Bass is saying we need more officers, a 10% decrease on the force. What do we know so far about this deal?
Well, we don't have a lot of details yet. It just came out yesterday. Reportedly, it does include changes to LAPD discipline, so we will continue to look at that. And I also want to mention that crime has continued to fall even as those staffing members have decreased. Homicides are down almost 20% from last year. Violent crime down 10% from this time last year.
Okay, so trending in the direction we like to see here. Okay,
Exactly.
Thank you so much, Kate, for keeping us updated on this.
Of course.
Okay, and coming up, how a surprise phone call and a generous gift sparked a makeover miracle. You like this story, right, Kate?
Of course, we love an uplifting story.
Plus, Autumn has a look at how high today's temperatures will get. Now, across the state, Governor Newsom's Home Key initiative created 12,000 units to house people living on the streets. It funded projects across California, including a Sacramento hotel turned into permanent housing. Daniela Pardo checked in to see how the people living in those apartments are doing today. Now, childcare providers in California are set to get the largest pay raise in state history. Joe Kwan brings us the latest from Garden Grove. Joe. Now we turn to politics. Later today, a fundraising event will be held in our region to raise funds for Democratic presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. But here's the twist. Local Republicans are hosting, and our political anchor Alex Cohen will be there and joins us now. Hey, Alex. Foodies, listen up and grab your forks because Michelin's 2023 guide just lit up the California culinary scene. And Lisa McCree has the scoop on the top eateries on tonight's LA Times Today. Lisa? Now, when wildfires get close to homes, people have to evacuate fast. But what about when they have large animals? Natalie Basha joins us now live from Santa Clarita at the Gentle Barn to show us how they are preparing to keep all those precious lives safe. How are they doing it, Natalie?
Really need, there's a lot of work and a lot of money that's going to go into that.
Yeah, and not to mention that fire season's now like year round. So Natalie, between severe heat and the wildfires, what are some of the top upgrades that they're doing or need?
Well, what they're focusing on right now, the two things that they need most is a new truck, and they also need a water tank. So the new truck is to hook up some trailers. They found that they needed more trailers during the last evacuation, so they need another truck to hook up to get all these guys out, and they need another water tank in order to stand by and fight the fires, fight the flames as it comes to the property. But if you want to find out more, or if you want to find out maybe how you could help the Gentle Barn, you can go to thegentlebarn.org.
All right, thank you so much, Natalie. We know it's very hot up there in Santa Clarita, and the work they do is very important for those animals. Thank you for bringing this story to us. And make sure you stay with us. We have more on the latest Trump indictment. We also have the latest on the WGA strike coming to the table with major studios. And of course, your top weather and traffic. Stay with us. We turn now to politics, as former President Donald Trump will be arraigned today in a D.C. courthouse following his third criminal indictment. The 4 charges from the special counsel allege he orchestrated a conspiracy to overturn the 2020 election, resulting in the January 6th riot at the Capitol. And while the trial is still likely months away, we're already seeing the Trump legal defense, with his lawyers arguing he had the First Amendment right to challenge those election results. Joining us now is Caroline Heldman, professor of critical theory and social justice at Occidental College. Good morning, Caroline. Happy you're here to help us break this all down.
Great to see you, Sarah.
So we have been anticipating this third criminal indictment for weeks. And while we've already known many of the details, it's still really staggering, right, to read that very top line, the United States versus Donald J. Trump. Some say this will be the most important case in our nation's history, with American democracy itself on trial. How do you see it?
I would very much agree with that assessment. What it says is it doesn't matter who you are not above the law. And if you look at how the violent insurrection was a threat to American democracy, not just the events of January 6th, but the events leading up to it, I think this case is highly significant. And it perhaps sends the message most importantly to the 44% of Americans who think that folks are just making too big of a deal about January 6th. But if you go back to that day and you remember the violence and you remember the fear that perhaps our government wasn't going to continue to operate the way that we've all been accustomed for 250 years, this isn't a small case. This is, in fact, the biggest indictment to date against Donald Trump.
And when you say 44% of people don't think this is a big deal, I mean, that just goes to show how divided our nation truly is. And Trump is expected to enter a plea of not guilty in that D.C. court later today. It's a location his legal team already wants changed, claiming that the jury, an Obama-appointed judge, cannot be unbiased. Is there any chance that this trial gets moved, Caroline?
There's no chance, Sarah. It's a lottery system for assigning judges. And you know, in the documents case, Trump got a win with Eileen Cannon, who is a Trump appointee who has already been admonished by other conservatives for ruling in Trump's favor in previous cases. So he got a win with that, and he got a loss with Tanya Chutkan, who's indeed a Democrat and Obama appointee, and also someone who's been incredibly firm and harsh with January 6th violent insurrectionists. So, yeah, Trump doesn't get to decide that. But the great thing about our judicial system is that even if judges have these biases or ideological bents, they have to play within a set of rules. And it's really about having a jury of peers. And so Donald Trump will get a fair trial in both cases.
Now, key issues for prosecutors will be to prove Trump's intent and whether he knew he was lying about election fraud. And we're already seeing previews of Trump's legal defense arguing the indictment unfairly criminalizes Trump's protected freedom of speech to say that the election was stolen. Do you think that defense will hold up?
Well, I don't. It's not a legal defense. So Donald Trump is not on trial for what he said, right? He can say what he wants. He can think what he wants. What he has been indicted for are his actions. And so what you're seeing is a lot of like Giuliani and other right-wingers who are saying that this is about free speech. That's actually insulting. That's not what this case is about. That's a message of disinformation. This case is about the actual actions or alleged actions that Donald Trump took to essentially weaponize government to stay in power and to violate basic constitutional rights like voting.
Well, it seems like that the former Vice President, Mike Pence, also isn't buying Trump's defense in that First Amendment defense, but he is likely to play a key role in this trial. He said, no man is above the Constitution. How significant is Pence to this case?
Well, Pence apparently kept very detailed notes. This is new information that we got from this indictment. He was keeping a journal in real time. Also, we found out that there were a number of phone calls. Donald Trump calling on Christmas, on New Year's Eve, putting pressure on Pence. So Pence will be key in this trial, even though the man has been reluctant to really go after Trump in his public statements, mostly because he's running for the presidency, obviously, and he knows what happens when you go against Trump.
Yeah, it's been fascinating to see that, Caroline. Now, 5 of the 6 Trump co-conspirators have now been identified. They include Rudy Giuliani, John Eastman, Sidney Powell, Jeffrey Clark, and Kenneth Chesebro, none of which have been indicted yet. Do you think those charges are imminent, or do you expect they may flip on their former boss?
Yeah, great question, Sarah. The reason that you would list co-conspirators who have not yet been indicted is absolutely to put pressure on them to flip on the person you want and the person who has been indicted, and that's obviously Donald Trump. We have seen incredible loyalty from Trump's team, so I doubt we will see many, if any, flip, but that is the point of listing them as unindicted co-conspirators.
Okay, so that might be what Jack Smith is hoping for. Now, Trump's $100 million PAC has burned through nearly all of its money due to these staggering legal fees. And that's before any of these trials have even begun. How potentially damaging is this to his presidential campaign?
Well, I think he's getting all the free press he could possibly need for his presidential campaign. I don't think he needs to spend money on the thing that typically costs the most in elections, but I would be concerned if I was his team, whether or not we can raise enough money to cover the legal expenses. We know he's already spent, as you noted before, any trial has started $40 million. And it's perfectly legal to pull money in for a campaign and then use it on legal expenses. And that is essentially what his team is doing.
Well, quickly, Caroline, before I let you go, Trump could pardon himself of all federal crimes if reelected, making the expected Georgia indictment possibly the most perilous to his freedom. But what would it say of the American experiment and our democracy if a convicted man, possibly sitting in a Georgia prison, was reelected president?
Well, the Supreme Court will decide whether or not presidential pardon is absolute. We are often in uncharted territory with Donald Trump, and this would be yet another unprecedented case, again, decided by the Supreme Court.
All right, well, all eyes on the arraignment today. Caroline Hellman, professor of critical theory and social justice at Occidental College. Thank you, as always, for joining us.
Thank you, Sarah.
And now we want to give you a live look from the San Pedro waterfront at the Port of LA as you wake up and start your day. Looking beautiful out there, that sun on the water. Plus, are we expecting another heat wave? It is summer after all. Autumn has the answer for you just ahead. Good morning and happy Thursday. Welcome to your morning on Spectrum News 1. I'm Sarah Pilla in for Giselle Fernandez, and we have lots to get to, a very busy news day here. First, we want to start off with a big day in our nation's history, as just hours from now, at 1 p.m., former President Donald Trump will be arraigned in Washington, D.C. after being indicted on 4 felony counts over his alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 election. We'll bring you the very latest on what to expect. Plus, a health alert this morning as California's record-breaking rain is leading to a sickness causing chest pain, coughing, and fatigue. Parker Collins is standing by with what you need to know about valley fever. And Swifties' wildest dreams are coming true tonight. Taylor Swift bringing her Eras Tour to SoFi Stadium. But not everyone wants to see her take the stage just yet. Why some politicians are asking her to postpone. We'll take you to SoFi for a preview. But first, let's get you up to speed with weather with Autumn Robertson. Good morning, Autumn.
Good morning, Sarah. Happy Thursday.
Yes.
Here's a look from Redondo Beach. Look at those surfers go. They are enjoying a gorgeous, gorgeous start to the day. He's about to wipe out there. You see? Almost. Yes. There we go. Boom. Better than what I could do, right? So it's going to be a gorgeous day for surfing. We do have those high tides still in effect for today. We're going to improve with the tides as we head into the weekend, and our temperatures will also be heating up as we head into the weekend. But for today, we're going to be right near the average where we're supposed to be for this time of August. We'll get up to 82 degrees in the basins, a little warmer as you head further east, 93 degrees in the valleys and the IE. High desert 95 today, low desert 110, the coast 76 degrees, and those temperatures are on the rise. I'm breaking it down coming up. Sarah.
All right, thanks, Autumn. Nice to see the surfers taking advantage of the waves and the great weather. And topping our news this morning, former President Trump is set to appear in a federal court just hours from now, where he will be arraigned after being indicted on 4 felony counts over his alleged interference in the 2020 presidential election. Our Washington correspondent, Angie Gonzalez, is leading us off with the very latest. Angie. All right, thanks, Angie. All eyes on the arraignment later today. Now, also developing right now, California's record-breaking rainfall brings rapid runoff, infrastructure concerns, and now a new health warning about valley fever. Parker Collins is here with more on what you need to know. So now we've got a little bit of a health domino effect, I guess, from that rain.
And we see these extreme conditions created by climate change, and there are so many long-term effects. Valley fever is what we're talking about right now, and it can be difficult to prevent, and there is unfortunately no vaccine.
Okay, so that's good about the contagion, but of course awful to think about being sick for a month or even more. That's just not fun.
And it can be really expensive if you do have to be hospitalized for this. A lot of times we see people who are getting this, they have to be outside. They don't have another choice, right? And so getting time off of work is almost an impossibility.
Yeah, we think about our, farm workers who work outside, maybe construction workers, So what about the areas that are most affected by this? Where are they in California?
Yeah, in general, 20,000 cases per year. We see that in California, Arizona, Central Coast, Central Valley regions especially, but Southern California seeing an increase.
Oh, wow. So seeing an uptick here. And sad to also hear about the pets that they could be susceptible to. I guess try to keep them inside as much as possible, you think?
You want to just prevent this exposure from the dust, right? Some people can't avoid it, but if you can, wear the mask, stay inside, close those windows. You don't want to get involved with this.
Yeah, definitely keep a hold of your masks. Thank you so much for bringing this to us, Parker. And coming up, how one man's will to build a new life helped him survive a treacherous journey. Plus, Autumn and Sally have the weather and traffic you need to know before heading out the door on this Thursday. And we want to bring you a live look. This is in Washington, D.C. This is where former President Trump will be arraigned, this courthouse, just hours from now around 1 p.m. Make sure to stay with us here at Spectrum News 1 for continuing coverage. You can also follow along on the Spectrum News app. The man who committed the deadliest anti-Semitic attack in U.S. history has just been sentenced to death for his crime. Unfortunately, anti-Semitic crimes have surged, with over 200 incidents happening in Los Angeles alone. But out of the horror come stories of resilience. Lisa McCree has more on tonight's LA Times Today. Lisa? And developing news, LA's city controller is accusing the LAPD of playing into, quote, racist stereotypes to excuse over-policing of disenfranchised communities. It's the latest in an escalating back and forth between the police department and the city's new watchdog, Kenneth Mejia. Kate Cagle is here with the data at the center of the dispute. Kate, is there data to back up Mejia's claims?
Well, it's all about this one number, 80%. The data is the same. It's just these two departments basically now, arguing over what it all means.
Yeah, so this back and forth is happening. What happens next?
Well, basically, these maps are online on the city controller's website. You can look them up for themselves if you want to see how it's impacting your community. But the city controller doesn't make policy, so it's really up to the city council and the mayor's office if they want to address the data.
All right, well, thanks for staying on top of this and bringing this to us this morning.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, we'll be right back. Tonight, the Dodgers host the A's in the third and final game of their at-home series. And if the last two games are any indication, it'll be another good night for the boys in blue. Our team with Sportsnet LA has their one takeaway.
See you then.
All right, let's hope they get the sweep. Thanks, guys. Now, the city of Long Beach is going the extra mile to tackle homelessness, both with its 2024 proposed budget and the millions offered in loans to create more affordable housing. But progress can't come fast enough. Just ask anyone on the wait list for assistance. Our Parker Collins joins us now to talk more about what residents are dealing with. I'm kind of nervous to know exactly how long a Section 8 housing voucher waitlist is.
When we talk about the Housing Choice Section 8 voucher waitlist, it is very long. And have a voucher available, they have to move very quickly to distribute it, get it out there. They don't want to sit on it.
No, and considering how long that waitlist is, you don't want to miss a call from them. So how far into the waitlist have they actually gotten, and what are the results so far?
They just started this not too long ago, so really maybe a fourth of the way through. There's still a long ways to go. They have started to remove some of the names that they can't get a hold of. Others aren't even looking for housing anymore. It's been so many years, but it's going to be a long project.
Yeah, when you think of 15,000 people that you mentioned.
And you want to give people the amount of time, right? You don't want to, like I said, unnecessarily boot anybody off this list. So you'll call, you'll email multiple times, you'll send letters, and you really want to give people all the time they need to get back to you, especially when a lot of people don't have that physical address. Maybe they, live on the streets or they are unhoused.
Really quickly, is there another kind of voucher people can obtain now?
There is something called a project-based voucher. That wait list is still open, but it's specifically for seniors who live and work in Long Beach.
Okay, thank you for bringing this to us. So important as we know we're in this housing crisis. Thank you.
Of course.
Well, uncorking a new adventure coming up, how a winery turned the sour grapes of the pandemic into a robust new revenue stream. Plus, we have Autumn and Sally coming up. They're going to give you updates on traffic and weather that you need to know as you start your Thursday. Stay with us. And now we turn to entertainment. Swifties assemble as Taylor Swift is ready to begin her seismic 6-night leg of her tour here in LA. And I do mean that literally, after her Seattle show last week caused a seismic event, or what her fans are, of course, calling a Swiftquake. It's hard to even comprehend just how successful the record-breaking tour has been for the 12-time Grammy-winning artist. But it doesn't come without controversy, as even the lieutenant governor is calling for its postponement due to the hotel worker strike. Well, I knew she was trouble when she walked in. See what I did there? Joining us now to discuss everything Taylor is entertainment journalist Samia Khan, who is also you are a self-proclaimed early Swift adopter, not to be confused with being a Swiftie, I have learned. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for joining us.
Of course.
This is like just such a pop culture moment, it seems like, with Taylor Swift here. And, I'm just joking. I don't want any bad blood with this girl. But when we are talking Taylor Swift, she is obviously already accomplished so much. She has such a large range of music. But this Eras tour has somehow just seemed to skyrocket her stardom to the stratosphere. Why is that?
Well, you have to think about everything that happened during the pandemic, right? We already had the established Taylor Swift fans that would buy tickets, buy multiple albums, all of that. Then the pandemic happens. Everyone has a lot of free time. She's releasing album after album, and then she has the re-releases. So she honestly, I think, doubled her fan base overnight. And this is a time for everyone to come together and not only experience a concert, but really experience an emotional moment of it's kind of like a wedding if you think about it, in my opinion. Because when you've been on the journey for all of the years, when you've been like a diehard Swiftie, it's a culmination of everything she's accomplished, and you're celebrating that with her. And I think that's why the fans that have been there since day one want to be a part of that experience.
Yeah, well, the demand is just out of control. So, and we know the tour's massive revenue is expected to make, $1 billion. And we learned yesterday that she has given very generous bonuses to her crew, some even getting as much as $100,000. And I think when we think about that with a celebrity, it really touches our heart that she does that. Why do you think she is doing that, so much generosity?
I think that's just Taylor. I think that it's not out of the ordinary. Taylor Swift has always done these sort of things to connect with the people that matter to her. She has, surprise album listening parties with inner circle fans that her team just gathers, and you're at Taylor Swift's house eating cookies, She's not, she's just doing it out of the goodness of her heart, I think. And, obviously you can understand different perspectives, the political aspect of it, why the lieutenant governor is calling on Swift to postpone the tour. But you also have to think about all the people that are working on this tour that have put in the work, and there are always like multiple sides to every story. You know, you think about the person, the parent perhaps that lives in a small town like Delano, right?
Yeah.
And they have worked day in, day out just to afford a couple tickets to go to this concert, right?
Yeah.
And they might have taken time off tonight to drive their kid down to LA to just see this concert. They might not be staying at a hotel because it's too expensive.
Yeah.
They might be at 11:30 at night driving back up to Central California and getting home at 2 a.m. and they've made their kids' night. So I understand where the lieutenant governor is coming from, because obviously you have to care about the hotel workers too, but you have to think about all the parents that have taken the time off, the money they've put in, it's summer vacation, and like it's too much to put on one pop star, to be honest.
Well, I'm glad that you do point that out. I mean, we know how much the local economy is injected. I believe it's something around 13 million a night, especially when it comes to accommodations. But, you know, you make a good point about people are coming near and far, taking time off, and have spent a lot of money. And speaking of that, we are seeing massive lines and ticket prices. I mean, thousands of dollars, right? Especially when it comes to pre-sale and to even just get a decent seat if you can find one.
Right.
Does it concern you a little bit, though, of these high prices, that some of her most loyal fans might just not be able to afford this and will miss out on this moment?
I mean, it's just the reality of the situation. I'll be honest, as an early Swift adopter, I personally didn't feel as compelled to go to this tour because I felt like there were all these like kind of fair weather fans, the ones that are going because they can post it on Instagram, as opposed to the fans that have been there and like know the lyrics to like the original album, know who, like, you know, the country music era. Like I saw Taylor Swift in her 2010 show at what was then Staples Center, and I remember how many people were in like country music, like cowboy hats.
Yeah.
You know, and I've seen Taylor over the years, and it's a different energy and a different experience, and you know, it's fun to be a part of all those eras, but you know, there is something to be said about like the fact that going to see Taylor Swift now is trendy, and having a friend text me like, oh my God, can we see Taylor? I'm having so much fun on Instagram. I'm like, you didn't care about Taylor like 2 years ago, you know? And obviously I'm very happy as just someone who was an early Swift adopter that she has this sort of impact and this influence, and it's incredible. A friend of mine, you know, ended up at a Taylor Swift album listening party in Japan. I mean, she's a global superstar, which is incredibly impressive. It's just, you know, I actually was joking with one of my friends. I was like, I wonder if there's a way to do a show where you have to prove that you were an old school Taylor Swift fan before you even had the access code to get tickets, and try to do like a very special, intimate, like,
well, that would be you for sure.
You know.
And that cross-genre, cross-different cultures. I love how the LA Times had said this is probably going to be the most TikToked event over these 6 days. But we're expecting maybe some guest artists to arrive. She'll play a song that people aren't expecting. Are you expecting to see some of those things that she's known for during this 6 nights here?
Well, I think that's the thing about a Taylor Swift concert. It's not just a concert that she's replicating over and over from city to city. I compare it more to sports, right? When you're going to go to like a live, like a Lakers game or something, you're going because you never know what's going to happen next, right? And I think that's what makes a Taylor Swift concert so special, is that you never know what's going to happen next. No, it's not going to be about dunks or LeBron scoring a whole bunch, but it is going to be about like, who is the surprise guest? Which song is she going to sing? Is she going to get emotional in this moment? You know, I remember seeing Taylor Swift.
So it's such a social moment, and I don't mean to cut you off,
worries.
but thank you so much for coming on. And of course, sports at SoFi. I mean, it's really all coming together. Samia Khan, journalist and early Swift adopter, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And stay with us. We'll check in with Chase Beach at SoFi in just a little bit ahead of tonight's concert. We want to give you a live look from San Pedro Waterfront at the USS Iowa. Autumn has your forecast ahead. And are you ready for it? Taylor Swift's Eras Tour comes to LA tonight. It's the first of her 6 shows at SoFi Stadium. It's a big moment for Swift fans who thought this was the last leg of her U.S. tour. But there is some breaking news. Chase Beach, who's a self-proclaimed Swiftie, is live at SoFi this morning to give us that breaking news. Good morning, Chase.
Good morning, Sarah. Yes, huge news in Swiftie world this morning. Taylor Swift announced that she's actually adding dates to her U.S. tour. So she's going to be heading to Europe after SoFi. Just an extraordinary amount of money being spent here, Sarah.
Oh, worth the debit of the savings account, I suppose. All right, Chase, we know it's a big monetary, economic moment as well as cultural moment. How else is LA preparing for Swift's arrival? All right, avoid the parking, avoid the driving, just take public transportation. Thanks, Chase. We'll be right back. Turning now to politics, former President Donald Trump pleads not guilty in a D.C. court after being indicted for trying to overturn the results of the 2020 election. Here's what he said after his arraignment.
This is the persecution of the person that's leading by very, very substantial numbers in the Republican primary and leading Biden by a lot. So if you can't beat him, you persecute him or you prosecute him.
To talk more about this, joining us now is Gunnar Raymer, political director with the Republican Accountability PAC. Good morning, Gunnar.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So you just watched the former president's first remarks after being arraigned, claiming he's being targeted because he's so far up in the polls. What's your reaction to that?
Yeah, well, overall, I think it's a sad state of affairs that Donald Trump is doing so well with Republican primary voters, but he is right. He is doing well with Republican primary voters. And the thing about these indictments is that what they do is create this short-term rally around Trump effect. We talk to Republican primary voters all the time in focus groups. And the thing is that what Donald Trump did in 2015, 2016, when he was running for president and still does today, is tap into this grievance politics, this victimhood politics that ultimately plays well with Republican primary voters.
Yeah, I would say that the rally around him is definitely staggering considering how many indictments and charges. But I want to mention the former vice president, Mike Pence. He had been reluctant to criticize his former boss, but now he's saying that Trump put himself above the Constitution. With the Republican debate being so close on August 23rd and this indictment, do you expect more of the candidates to finally come out against Trump?
Yeah, I'm not sure if other Republican other Republicans running to be the next president or Republican nominee are going to attack Trump because they're oftentimes afraid of alienating the Trump base. There's around 30% of Republican primary voters that are always Trump. And I think that with candidates like Tim Scott and Nikki Haley, I certainly applaud former Vice President Mike Pence for telling the truth about what Donald Trump did, trying to put himself over the Constitution. But ultimately, that doesn't play well with Republican primary voters. And I think they're going to have a difficult time beating Trump because his standing within the Republican Party is just so strong. I think that the best case to make against former President Trump is electability, and candidates like Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley aren't doing that as well as they could be when that is the best argument they have to say, hey, Donald Trump may be playing well with Republican primary voters, but he turns off swing voters, independents. Look at what happened in November of 2022. It's supposed to be a good year for Republicans. It was a poor national environment for Democrats, and Donald Trump's brand of politics ultimately loses in a general election.
So the former president, he dined with top Fox News executives this week who did press him to participate in the first debate, which is on their network. And not one to shy away from the spotlight, as we know, but Trump has said that the debate can only hurt him in the polls. Do you think he participates? Is it a good idea that he does so?
Yeah, I don't have a crystal ball. I can't predict if he's going to or not. But the open question right now is why should Donald Trump participate in the debate when his standing within the Republican Party is so strong? But I hope he does debate, and I hope that candidates go after his record in electoral politics. That, you know, it was a poor year for Republicans in 2018. He lost in 2020, and a lot of the candidates in swing states in 2022 lost that were handpicked by him in the Republican primary. Because that's the difficult problem that Republicans have put themselves in, is that it is one thing to win a Republican primary. It is another to win a general election, and the gap between those two things has widened as Donald Trump has fundamentally changed the Republican Party.
So speaking of that, Mitt Romney is urging Republican no-hopers to drop out of the primary in order to really rally support around one candidate who can actually beat Trump. Ron DeSantis is in second place, but he is hemorrhaging support. Do you think he still has the best shot of beating Trump?
Ever since the January 6th committee hearings, the midterms, Ron DeSantis has been the clear alternative for Republican primary voters. They say he is Trump without the baggage. He is Trump not on steroids. There's one voter that told us in a focus group that Ron DeSantis turned a purple state into a blood red state. And I think there's something psychological with voters in general about Florida. Traditionally, to win a presidential election, you had to win Florida, and Ron DeSantis overperformed Republicans across the country. So he has always been the clear alternative. But I will just say one note on that is that they view DeSantis in relation to Trump. And when after the midterms in the early part of this year, we talked to Republican primary voters about, okay, you support Ron DeSantis, but who's your second choice? They oftentimes would go back to Donald Trump. So as we see DeSantis struggle to campaign, the alternative for those voters who liked DeSantis back then was Trump. And I think that is the state of the Republican Party right now.
Yeah, okay. Now, before I let you go, Gunnar, impeachment calls for President Biden are only growing louder from Republicans, including Speaker McCarthy. But Trump's ally and former Arizona gubernatorial candidate Kari Lake saying actually that impeachment isn't necessary. Take a look at this.
If we just go back and deal with this fraudulent election and what happened in 2020, we don't have to impeach him because he really isn't, in my opinion, and many others, and you look at the evidence, the true president. We just can. Why don't we decertify 2020?
Quick answer here. Despite yesterday's arraignment, Lake calling for her party to repeat the crime. How dangerous is that?
Oh, I think it's incredibly dangerous. And our PAC made a significant investment in making sure that Kari Lake lost to Katie Hobbs. We had Republican voters against Lake. No, the sowing of distrust in our electoral system, not having two political parties, major political parties in our country that don't respect free and fair elections is incredibly dangerous. We saw what happened on January 6th, that Donald Trump and those around him, what he caused. So I think that when you have former losing candidates like Kari Lake making those claims, it's incredibly dangerous for our country, and I worry ahead of the 2024 election.
Thank you so much for your perspective this morning. Gunnar Rainbow, political director with the Republican Accountability PAC. Thanks again.
Thanks for having me.
Make sure to stay with us. We have much more headlines to come. Of course, your weekend weather forecast and all the traffic that you need to know as you head out the door. Good morning, everyone, and happy Friday. You can taste it. The weekend is almost here. Welcome to your morning on Spectrum News 1. I'm Sarah Pilla, in for Giselle Fernandez. We have a very busy day ahead, lots to get to. First off, it's another one for the history books. Former President Donald Trump pleading not guilty to charges that he plotted to overturn the 2020 election. We'll tell you what comes next and how it could affect the race for the White House. Plus, the Writers Guild of America and the major studios are taking shots at one another as both sides are set to meet today for the first time since the Hollywood writers' strike began 3 months ago. Could there be a deal in play? Parker Collins is standing by with the latest, with thousands of jobs and millions of dollars on the line. And Swiftie fans, you need to calm down. Taylor Swift took over a packed SoFi Stadium last night for the first of 6 LA shows as part of her Eras tour. We'll take you live to SoFi Stadium as fans get ready for night 2 just ahead. But first, let's check in with Autumn Robertson, who's got a live look at Long Beach. Good morning, Autumn.
Yeah, Long Beach still in the clouds this morning. Let's give it a couple of hours, they'll clear. We'll see a lot of sunshine at the coast today, a lot of sunshine inland as well. And this is going to be the last day of near average temperatures. So get outside, take that lunch outside, and enjoy it before temperatures heat back up this weekend. We'll get up to 82 degrees in the basins today, some warmer spots in the basin, 94 in the valleys and the IE. Hello Desert getting up to 111 degrees today, and as we head into the weekend, we'll add on a few degrees to areas like Palm Springs, especially as we head into Sunday. 100 degrees in Sacramento, 95 in Medford. You can see the temperatures as we head into Sunday. Quite hot. Prepare for that. Sarah.
All right, thank you so much, Autumn. And topping our news this morning, former President Donald Trump is pushing ahead in his campaign to become the Republican presidential nominee. Hours after his historic third arraignment, he's set to attend GOP events today and tomorrow in Alabama and South Carolina. The former president pled not guilty to federal charges, accusing him of orchestrating a conspiracy to overturn the results of the 2020 election. Our Washington correspondent, Angie Gonzalez, is leading us off with more. Angie. Happening today, reps for the major studios and Hollywood writers are set to meet and discuss a possible restart of contract talks. It's the first return to the bargaining table since picket lines formed, but some harsh jabs in the last 24 hours could make things difficult. Parker Collins is here with more. You know, Parker, it's great that they're going back to the table, but can they find a path forward when things appear so contentious?
That's got to be the big question, right? Today really could be a huge turning point. I know a lot of people hope it will be, but there have been some strong words recently coming from both sides. Hollywood writers went on strike May 2nd, and talks with the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers have basically ceased since then. The tense back and forth seems to have started with a message sent to Writers Guild of America members. It references supposed tactics deployed by the AMPTP that are from the, quote, anti-union playbook straight out of the 2007-2008 strike, end quote. There was also a denial that the strike is having no impact on the studios due to content stockpiles. Some of the key words that jump out here: scare tactics, rumors, and lies. This was a rather long note, but then just a couple hours later, the AMPTP responded with just 4 sentences. Here's the whole thing. Tomorrow's, meaning today's, discussion with the WGA is to determine whether we will have a willing bargaining partner. The WGA bargaining committee's rhetoric is unfortunate. This strike has hurt thousands of people in this industry, and we take that very seriously. Our only playbook is getting people back to work. With all of this going on, playing out very publicly, it's hard to kind of stay optimistic. The writers are seeking better residual pay for streaming, to set industry standards on the number of writers assigned to each show, and those all-important AI, artificial intelligence protections, Sarah.
Yeah, of course. There's a lot at stake. Now, outside of the WGA and their negotiations, what is the latest with SAG-AFTRA?
Right, SAG-AFTRA is the bigger union here. It just went on strike last month, so not quite as long. But the AMPT last month accused SAG-AFTRA of ignoring a contract offer. The studio is valued at more than $1 billion, and wage increases and other benefits. But SAG-AFTRA came back and said that offer is not what it appears. We also know that they're not going to be in these latest talks. It's just WGA.
Really quickly, though, a lot of A-list celebrities have come out and contributing to a fund to help actors. I think that's a good bright spot.
It's been really exciting to see a lot of those A-listers, Meryl Streep included, some other big names, to help those who need the help the most right now.
I know it's so important. Hard times right now. Thank you so much, Parker. Well, Anaheim's so-called secret cabal is under the spotlight, and coming up, we have more on the explosive report on alleged corruption in the city. Plus, Autumn and Sally have you covered on weather and traffic you need before you head out the door and heading into your weekend. Turning to politics, we're continuing to monitor allegations of corruption in Anaheim. Just this week, an investigation found a potential criminal conspiracy involving officials at City Hall. Our Logan Hall joins us now for more on the probe that is certainly turning heads in the OC, isn't it?
Sarah, turning heads indeed, this criminal conspiracy. And
things like this, when we see it, it certainly doesn't restore trust for the public in their government. You know, how were the COVID-19 funds misused?
Yeah, Sarah, this is one of the most glaring, misuses of public funds that we see within this long 353-page report. So when it comes to these COVID-19 funds, the former mayor was allegedly directing this money to the Chamber of Commerce to then be used for various pet projects that he had throughout his tenure as mayor. Now, what we can make clear from this investigation is that it was about $1.5 million of these COVID-19 funds that were directed back to the Chamber of Commerce.
Now, do you know if Disney or the Angels were part of this investigation?
It's a great question, Sarah. Two of the biggest businesses in Anaheim, neither of them participated in this report. Now, you can remember that the reason this report actually started is because of an FBI investigation into the sale of Angel Stadium with the city of Anaheim. However, neither of these groups participated in this report, but still plenty of details that have been laid out for us along this 353-page report. It's extensive, there's lots of detail, and it spells out just a slew of potential crimes.
Yeah, lengthy indeed, and I know you went through the whole thing.
Indeed, 353 pages. It was a long read, but lots of good nuggets in there for us.
All right, well, thank you so much. I know that you'll stay on this and give us more updates as they do happen.
You got it, Sarah.
Well, LA is getting swept up in Swift mania. We'll take you live to SoFi Stadium ahead of night 2. People already lined up for merchandise. We'll catch up with those families who traveled far and wide to see her. It's an idea so wild that it's hard to believe, but the California Highway Patrol and the state DMV are looking for drivers who also use cannabis. More on a fascinating new study tonight on Inside the Issues. Here's Alex Cohen with a preview. Hey, Alex. You know that sound by now. It is Summer Friday, and we're ready to help kick off your weekend right with a look at things to do. And Girl Swirl is an inclusive, women-founded global skate community based right here in LA. And this Saturday, they are hosting their 2nd annual Swirl Surf Skate Fest in Venice. And that is where we find our own Nikki K this morning. Hey, Nikki, good morning. Awesome, Nikki. And I love the girl power. I love the fact that they say it's okay if you're not a pro. I have surfed a couple times. I have not skated because I'm just a little too intimidated, but those girls make it seem so effortless and easy. Thanks so much, Nikki. So last night, Taylor Swift took over SoFi Stadium for the first of her 6 LA tour dates, and fans flocked to the stadium from around LA and the country, and they're getting ready to do it again all tonight for night 2. Chase Beach, who is now on the Swift beat, joins us live now from outside SoFi with more. Chase, there's already folks lined up, huh?
Okay, Sarah, what era are you in? I'm going to make you one.
Okay, I have thought of the lyric I want wildest dreams. So if you could make me one of those, that would be great.
You got
And
it.
just
Absolutely.
quickly,
I'm going to
I
work
know-
on it.
All right, perfect. And I know that Swift loves surprises. So were there any at last night's show that you can share with us?
Yeah, there was a really beautiful moment at last night's show. Kobe Bryant's daughter actually was there, and I think you can see some video of that on your screen. And she was the person who got the hat during a very special moment that Swift does on every night of the tour during her song 22. I have to say, seeing that image of Bryant's daughter getting the hat back, getting the hat during that moment, it actually brought some tears to my eyes. We know that Bryant and Swift had a friendship as well. So just a beautiful, very LA moment last night as well.
Oh my goodness, that is such a beautiful moment. I had chills just looking at that hug. We know that the Taylor Mania has taken over LA, so thank you so much, Chase. And so cute seeing those friendship bracelets being made and friendships forming in real time. Stay with us, though. We have more on this Taylor Swift extravaganza here, as well as updates on the WGA.